Привет, ребята! Hello, everyone. My name is Helen, and I'm a professional Russian teacher for foreigners. If you're watching this video, you're probably curious about Russian, or maybe you want to start learning this language, or maybe you have already started this language. You have downloaded some application like Duolingo or Pimsleur, and now want to get a structured plan what you need to learn first, what you need to learn second, and so on. So this video will be very useful for you. When adults start learning any new language, it's very important to understand how this language functions, how this language works. And when it comes to the Russian language, it is extremely important to understand its grammar because the grammar in the Russian language is quite complex. It is true. It's possible to master grammar, but you need to get a structured plan of learning. When you learn some random things about Russian, it doesn't work. Okay? Okay. Итак, let's start with the first part of our lesson. It's called grammar. In this first part of the lesson, I will show you exactly what you need to learn to start speaking. And we will focus on basic grammar. I'm not going to give you the list of all grammatical rules that you should master. No, I just want to give you the basic rules that will be enough to build real sentences and have simple conversations. And as you see, we have a skeleton here, which means that it's very important to build a skeleton of grammatical rules in the very beginning. Okay? Ну что, step number one. So the first thing that you should start with is the Russian alphabet and reading rules. Russian alphabet may seem scary, but in reality it's not difficult to start reading in Russian. It will take you about 1 hour just to start reading in Russian. But you need to know the technique how to learn reading, how to read in Russian. If you know the technique, if you follow the special technique, the special method, it won't be very difficult for you. Итак, so we start with the Russian alphabet, and you need to learn two main reading rules that help pronounce words correctly. We have more than two reading rules, but at the very beginning, two will be enough. What are these reading rules actually? The first reading rule that is very important, that unstressed O is pronounced as A. So we spell O, but we say A instead when O is not stressed. Okay? So I will read this word as комета, but I will spell it like комета. That it is the first reading rule. And the second reading rule that you also need to learn is that letter Y, this one, Y, in unstressed position is pronounced as I. So I say ресторан, but I spell ресторан. Okay? That is it. So first step, Russian alphabet and two reading rules. Step number 2. You need to learn gender of nouns. All the objects that you see around, you can see around have genders in the Russian language. We have 3 genders: masculine, feminine, and neuter. And you need to learn how to identify the gender of nouns. Например, телефон is masculine, mama is feminine, окно is neuter. How do I know that? The last letter of each word tells me this. That is why it's important to know Russian letters in order to identify gender of nouns. Okay? Why it matters so much? Because gender affects everything. Adjectives, verbs, pronouns, and if at the beginning, especially at the beginning, if you don't know the gender of the subject, Subject, it is someone or something that is performing the action. If you don't know the gender of the subject, you cannot make a grammatically correct sentence. It's important. So, number 1, alphabet. Number 2, gender of nouns. Number 3, you need to learn personal pronouns. Okay? So, you need personal pronouns to say who is doing something. Here we can see a list of Russian pronouns. We can read them. Я, ты, он, она, мы, вы, они. Okay. In Russian, it is important to choose between ты and вы based on the level of formality and social distance. We use ты with friends, with family members, with children, and we use вы with strangers and when we want to show respect. Okay, so here we have 3 steps: alphabet, gender of nouns, and personal pronouns. Once you know these 3 things, you are ready to start making simple sentences. So now we need to learn present tense verbs. In Russian, verbs change their endings depending on the subject. That is why it is important to know the gender of the subject, because we need to agree our verb with the subject. Понимаете? And the process of changing the endings of the verb is called conjugation. In the Russian language, we have 2 groups of verbs, and that is why we have 2 different sets of endings for each groups. For each group. Now you can create your first real sentence. This sentence is consisted of subject, it is a noun or pronoun subject, plus the verb. This is your real first sentence. Например, я читаю, да? Мама готовит. It's a real sentence. And then you learn how to make this, how to form 3 types of sentences. Statement, мама готовит. Question, мама готовит. So you learn how to ask questions, because when we ask a question, we normally don't make any changes, grammatical changes, but intonational changes. When we ask a question, our intonation goes up when we pronounce the verb. Мама готовит. So you practice this. And negative sentences. We add particle не in front of the verb in order to make a negative sentence. Okay, so this is it. Just 4 steps, and now you know how to make a simple sentence. Grammatically correct sentence. Okay? Хорошо. Let's take a look at the next step. What you need to learn after that. After that, it is time to learn a new case. Yes, in the Russian language, there are cases. We have 6 cases. Not every language has cases, just some, and Russian is one of these languages. And I would say that case is like a function. We have different situations we want to talk about, right? And depending on this situation, we need to use a specific case. Each case has a different number of functions. For example, if I want to talk about location, I need to use prepositional case. If I want to talk about absence of something, that I don't have something, I need to use the genitive case. You see? So that depending on the situation, I choose specific case. Yeah? And now it's time to learn the prepositional case. It will be your very first case beyond the basic case, which is called nominative case, that you will learn when you want to talk about place, location. So we use this case when we want to say where someone or something is. Okay? So when you know that, you can already expand your sentence and you can say Mama готовит на кухне. You see, now I add additional information because I already know how to change the word in the prepositional case. На кухне, in the kitchen. Okay, so the structure of our new sentence will be subject, verb, we already know how to conjugate the verb, plus location. We already can add extra information because we know the prepositional case. We have learned the prepositional case. Okay? Дальше, номер 7. Number 7. Then we learn possessive pronouns. Now we can say my mom, your phone, his car, and so on. In English, as you see, we have only one form of the word, my. That is it. But in the Russian language, we have 4 forms, and they are just only in the nominative case, in the basic case. Yeah? And depending on the subject that we use, we need to choose one of these forms. That is why it's very important to know how to identify the genders of nouns. Понятно? Понятно. So you can already say not just mama, but you can say моя мама, my mom, мой телефон, моё окно, my window. Понятно? So that is why you can make your sentence even bigger than before. Понимаете? Хорошо. When you know this, it's time to learn past tense. You can talk, you will be able to talk about things that happened yesterday. Например, я читал книгу. Она ела пиццу. I will talk about these forms a bit later, but the thing that you will be able to know and to say at this very stage will be я читал, да? I read, или она ела, she ate, and so on. And actually, past tense is the easiest topic ever in the Russian language, though there are some irregular forms of very common verbs that you need to learn at this stage. Хорошо, дальше, поехали. Accusative case. Now it's time to learn your third case, because the first case is the nominative case. It's like basic case. The second case was the prepositional case, prepositional when we talk about location. And now it's time to talk about the accusative case. It is your third case. When you learn the accusative case, you can describe what someone is doing to something. For example, you already know how to say my mom is cooking in Russian. You already know how to say it. But if you want to say that my mom is cooking pizza, you will need to know the accusative case. Понятно? Because in the Russian language, you cannot just say моя мама готовит пицца. No, you need to change this word. Понимаете? Because it is the accusative case. It has its own rules. Понимаете? That is why you should say моя мама готовит пиццу на кухне. You see? So we have started with just 2 words, subject and the verb, and now you can see how big our sentence is. And we can say about a lot of stuff now. And we can ask a question, right? We can say, we can make this sentence negative and so on. So you can say, я читаю книгу, да? Книгу, accusative case, it is the object. Он смотрит фильм. Он смотрит фильм. Мы пишем письмо. Да? All these words, highlighted words, they are in the accusative case. It's an extremely useful case. Okay? Хорошо, хорошо. Дальше. The next step. Then you should learn adverbs. Adverbs. Adverbs describe how something happens. So you can use adverbs when you describe actions, how you do something. When you describe weather, when you describe your feelings, when you describe opinions, conditions, and so on. And in Russian, adverbs, we never change adverbs in Russian. Например, да, let's read example, what you can say when you learn adverbs. Она говорит хорошо. Хорошо is an adverb. So we describe the way she is speaking. Я отдыхаю дома. Дома is also an adverb of place. Так. Сейчас холодно. When we talk about weather, we can use adverbs. Здесь очень вкусно. Да, when we say that it's tasty in here. Хорошо. When you learn adverbs, you can learn, the next step is you can learn adjectives. Why do we need adjectives? We need adjectives to describe qualities and characteristics of people, things, or places. Okay? And in Russian, we need to change adjectives. Adjectives must agree with the noun we describe. So we agree adjectives in gender, in number, in case. Okay? So what it means? It means that the adjective changes its endings depending on the noun, да? On the noun that it describes. Например, это хороший фильм. So I describe film. I want to say that this film is good. And depending on the gender of the word, film, I need to choose the ending. У меня новый телефон. I describe telephone. And telephone is masculine, that's why I use masculine gender ending of the adjective. Summary. What you can say, what you can already say once you have learned all these grammatical topics that I mentioned before. So you can make simple, clear, and useful sentences. You can make a sentence like Моя мама читает книгу дома. You see, you're talking about location. You're talking about whose mom is performing the action. We are saying what she is doing. We are saying what she is reading. So there is a lot of information in here. Or он ел в ресторане. Here is the past tense. We can say what he was doing in the restaurant, where he was. Да? Я люблю красивые города. Okay. Important, да, what I want to say. These rules that I have given you, this is the skeleton of Russian grammar for beginners, for very, very beginners, for super, super beginners, okay? In between of these main topics, there are many small elements that you also have to learn. For example, how to make plural of nouns, okay? What irregular words, what irregular nouns we have, how to say I have something, and so on. So in between of these main steps, we add some other important elements that you also have to learn, and only a teacher will guide you through them at the right time, so you don't get confused. Понимаете? Хорошо. It was the first part of our lesson, and the second part of our lesson will be about vocabulary, because when you learn grammar, you need to practice this grammar, okay? And of course, you need to learn some vocabulary, and you need to learn the most common at the beginning. You need to learn the most common nouns, adverbs, adjectives, verbs, and so on. The most common, the most important words that we use daily in order to make simple conversations, right? So as the student builds a solid grammar foundation, I call it a skeleton of the language, they expand their vocabulary in parallel. So we're doing it simultaneously. You learn the rule, you learn words, you practice it. Понятно? Okay. So in this lesson, I will give you a list of some essential words, expressions that you need to know at this stage when you're a super beginner. Yeah? So with this vocabulary, you will be able to greet people, to order food in cafe, to ask for directions, which is very important, especially when you travel to Russia, to talk about weather, in order to make some small talk, and to describe people or everyday life. Okay? You can download these words because this lesson goes with a PDF file, which is absolutely free. You can download it and find essential vocabulary by topic and useful examples and sentences. So you can find the PDF file. You can download it in the comments below or under the video. Anyway, this video goes with a free material for you. Так, хорошо. I hope that this lesson will be useful for you, that you will use my guide, my plan. Also, I want to say that, of course, the self-learning is not for everyone. Though you can use this structured plan at the beginning, but there are students that want to be guided with a teacher. That is why I want to say that if you are one of the students that need a tutor, who need a teacher, you can book a lesson with me. I conduct online one-on-one lessons on Zoom. So if you want to get more details about my lessons, if you want to get a consultation about my lessons, you're welcome to do it. Just text me in the comments below that, Helen, I want to book a lesson with you, and I will give you all the necessary information about lessons with me. Спасибо большое за внимание. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm waiting for you on my lessons. Увидимся. Спасибо. Пока-пока.